I do think that transitioning, it's going to happen. If you haven't changed jobs by 50 or 55, unless you're teaching, which is one job I think that could be college or through, you're going to get displaced. It's just going to happen, whether you choose to do it or the business is going to choose to. There's other opportunities. Don't beat your head and don't get so upset and frustrated with what's going on. Get out.
Welcome to Over 50 TV. My name is Lou Reyes, and today I'm excited to introduce you to Joric McClean. Now, Joric's an expat. He's living in Lisbon, in Portugal. And Jordan is a former manager, HR manager for the Phoenix Suns. And I thought I'd bring him on today to ask him some questions, what I consider questions that are important. These are questions that a lot of viewers have when it comes to HR. So if there's anybody that I thought we could talk to about some of the behind the scenes stuff, questions that people have been asking me, I think Joric McClean's the right guy to talk to. I'm going to welcome you to our show, Joric.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here and take all questions that you have.
Cool. I appreciate that. I said this off camera, and it's so true that whenever I put up a video, I upload a video to YouTube on our Over 50 TV channel, anytime I mention HR, we get just hundreds, if not thousands and thousands of views. I think the most views I've gotten on an HR video was 260,000. And the questions that people ask are just amazing. But before I go on, I just want, maybe you could just tell the audience a little bit more about you and really what you're doing right now.
Sure. So my career after college, I started out in an insurance field, working for some insurance companies, where I was not only selling insurance, but I was also learning about human resources because I didn't go to college for that. And then from there was an opportunity to work for the Phoenix Suns. I couldn't do professional sports, so the next best thing is to work for a company. I was able to get in there and then be more immersed, not just in human resources, but operations, finance, you name it. And then from there, I was able to get a position in the veterinary world, based out of a company based out of Phoenix, where I was able to be an HR director and kind of lead a department for over 9 years.
Well, so the question I guess I got to ask you then is, how did you end up in Lisbon, Portugal?
Crazy circumstances. My wife and I had always wanted to move overseas, specifically to Europe. We thought we'd do it when we'd retire. But with her job, she happened to accept a position and a promotion and transfer that happened to get us over here while we were still working as opposed to retirement. So we kind of, thankfully, her business paid for the most of the move, which is fantastic.
So let me just tell you some of the things that I hear quite often when it comes to HR. And one of the things that's frequent, one of the comments is HR is not your friend. I hear that all the time. Can you tell me that is HR a friend to the employee, to the worker?
The most honest way to answer that is no, we're not, and haven't been. The way I try to explain HR is we're all working for the same team, so we all have the same uniforms on. The difficulty is that we're off in the principal's office, or the best way to describe it is police force. We're the internal affairs, so we're still police, but we're sort of the principal or enforcing laws within the police department, so not necessarily external laws. And so the difficulty with that is that we are working for the benefit of the business. If that happens to be also the benefit of the employee, that's great. But we are working for the board, the ownership, the shareholders, the stakeholders, and we're looking to fulfill whatever they're looking to do within the business as it relates to people and human resources. The difficulty is that throughout my career, more times than not, it hasn't been to the benefit of employees. We're going to cut staff. Cutting staff is not to the benefit to any employee I've ever met. So you're being put in a position which anybody that's in HR, it's not like you didn't know this when you got into it. We're trying to do what's in the best interest of the business. and that the difficulty is, I think, more and more, especially in the US, the employees are getting the short end of that stick. And I can say from doing it for 25 years, employees got a lot more in the 90s than they're getting today from HR as well as their businesses.
Well, as well as the company. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Yeah. I think the business, more businesses, especially in the US, had a more appreciation, or at least gave the illusion that they cared more 25 years ago than they do today. I think they're just more open about, you're a number, and it frustrates me.
So let me ask you then, Joric, one of the questions that I've heard many, many times, or one of the comments I've received is, okay, Lou, my HR manager is a little kid who has no real world experience or no experience, but yet this little kid is the HR manager and they're controlling my life, basically, is what I'm hearing. What is it? Is it my imagination, or am I seeing a lot of inexperienced people, whether it's younger or maybe even older, in HR?
To that point, that is a fairly accurate. I can't speak for other countries. I can speak for the US. Yeah, it's true. And I think I'll give you my honest answer. The honest answer why I think more people that are, let's say, in their mid 40s and up get out of it is that they're tired of it. I think at some point, I knew early on I was talking out of both sides of my mouth. And at some point, I had to make a decision of, okay, how much money am I willing to take? And how much am I willing to put up with? And how much am I willing to be okay putting out a policy that I thought was baloney, that I know I'm going to get flack for, but still show up to work? And I think that there are a number of people in human resources that over the years, I can speak to people that I've worked with throughout 25 years that were senior level. They're in their, let's say, 50s or 60s, and they're no longer doing HR. Now you're getting people that are right out of college that are in HR roles, director roles, and they're getting that, let's say, before they're 30. Sure. And that's a lot of responsibility, and that's a lot of knowledge that you're giving to someone, a lot of power, that I think you do have to work so many hours and have thousands of employee conversations and kind of weigh and hedge. When do you make the decision that you can kind of, like in my case, I got to a point where I knew where I could help the employee, but not screw over the business. And I think if you're 28 or 30, I didn't know that at 28 or 30, but there's just a proliferation of young people that are in it because I think older people don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah, and that's an answer I didn't expect to hear. I was really trying to understand why, because I know one of the questions that I get, one of the comments we receive all the time is that older people are pushed out because they're too expensive. And I thought maybe that in HR, you're bringing in these young kids because they're less expensive. Are older folks being pushed out because of their age and because of their expense?
Yes, there's no question about that. Partly because I will say this, I can speak to the 10 years of being an HR director and talking to peers that worked at Fortune 500 companies or GE, GM, big companies that were doing buyouts and things of that nature. Yeah, one of the things that I think people that are 50 and older specifically need to realize, businesses know that you're not going to say anything. You might complain a little at the water cooler. You might complain to your spouse at home or at happy hour, but just how you're built, it's more of you grew up in a generation of suck it up, buttercup, and I'll deal with it. And I think as you get closer to retirement, more people weigh that going, am I going to try to get harassment? I'll just deal with it. I'm going to put up with it. And so businesses know that. And the reason they know that is most of the businesses, I'll say the Fortune 500 companies in the United States anyway, are run by 50 and older. And so they know their peer group really well. And they just know that more of them are more silent, more compliant, and they'll put up with more baloney than someone who's younger. But older people are targeted. There's no question about that.
So what does an older worker do? I mean, if they're at a job and they don't feel that the HR department is any help at all, do you recommend that they go either quit or go above the head of the HR people? What's the solution?
Both. Depending on the situation. So if you feel like you're getting stuck at HR, I will say this: you may not realize that HR is the sticking point. HR may have talked to your boss, and it is your boss is the sticking point, but you're hearing it from HR. So you got to go above HR. I think if you feel like you're in a tough situation, you go as high as you need to go, and you go to the top floor or you wherever to go see somebody to make it known that something not right is happening. So HR is not, it's the first of many options. I look at it that way. The other thing is you have to, and I think I've done this in my career, how many times are you going to beat your head against the wall before you go, okay, I'm not going to change the system. I got to go. I do think that transitioning, it's going to happen. If you haven't changed jobs by 50 or 55, unless you're teaching, which is one job I think that could be college or through, you're going to get displaced. It's just going to happen, whether you choose to do it or the business is going to choose to. I would just, there's other opportunities. Don't beat your head and don't get so upset and frustrated with what's going on. Get out.
So, Joric, I want to thank you so much for being with us here today. What you've said, how you've explained HR, I think has really been an eye opener. Maybe some people out there who have listened to you and thought, boy, you know what, I kind of knew that, but now I'm really glad that this guy who was a HR manager was an HR director, and you work for the Phoenix Suns. So you've got some real good background here. And I think people will realize that what you've said has just been such an eye opener. Well, again, I do want to thank you for stopping by, and I do look forward to meeting with you again.
Hey, thank you so much. I enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to more conversations.
Cool. Me too, Joric. Thank you so much.
Thank you.